I never thought my exploration of the dark web would turn out the way it did. Something that still keeps me up at night, and something that will haunt me for the rest of my life. When it comes to the dark web, people here already know what it is. But what you may not know is when you hear those whispers that you can buy or pretty much find anything that you can think of from the darkest corners of the net, it is true. When a friend and I, whose name will remain anonymous out of respect, took to exploring the darkest recourses of the net, we longed to find things that would satisfy our cravings when it came to the world. We weren't looking for your usual topics you hear that people come across. The disturbing, the macabre, the often talked about red rooms where it's said that the darkest side of humanity can be witnessed. No, what we were looking for was far deeper than that. What we wanted was answers, hidden information, the ability to unearth forbidden knowledge of the darkest secrets in this world, and maybe the proof that there is more to this life than what we know today. With us both being dedicated and eager to learn more, we spent countless hours and days exploring the hidden chambers of the deep web, feeling that we were slowly getting to what we wanted. That is when we unearthed a forum that was specifically dedicated to the occult. We had finally come across something that gained our full, unwavering attention. With our interests piqued, we wasted no time exploring the hive of links that were concealed inside. There were pages dedicated to the supernatural, possession, witchcraft and devil worship practices, rituals that had looked to have been hidden from the world over time. The more we studied the information in front of us, the more we became intrigued by what we had discovered. There were some weird and eye-opening threads that we came across, but none more so than the one that drew us both in and garnered both of our attention. The one titled, The Prophet. It was the description of a ritual that was said to conjure a demonic presence that would show you sights that you could not comprehend. But once you let them in, there was no letting go. Once you saw what was to come, you could not unsee it. Now, as we read more into this and what it entailed, we couldn't believe what we were reading was real. At first, we laughed at the idea. Don't get me wrong, we believed in such things as the supernatural. But this ritual couldn't be possible, could it? But we soon started to question ourselves as we delved more into the link, learning more, and then, when we heard the audio file attached in the link, we began questioning everything. The sounds of what followed the incarnation stuck with us. It was like something we had never heard before. Sounds not of a human, a language we could not grasp. Until it broke into English in a haunting voice before cutting off. That audio file was enough to make us both agree that the only way to truly know if it was real or not would be to participate in the ritual ourselves. And with everything we needed listed in front of us, that is what we decided to do. The next night, having attained all the necessary items we needed, our candle, the symbol drawn in red paint, the verses we would speak aloud, and the last item, which we flipped a coin for, the blood of the participant. As we flipped the coin, I was relieved to see I won, meaning my friend would be the one cutting himself to provide the small amount of blood needed. As we set up, we were ready, but we had to wait for the time to strike specifically 3:09 in the morning, and as the time finally ticked over to that, we lit the candle and began the incarnation. As we chanted the verse, we neared the end, when my friend positioned his hand over the burning candle, cutting his palm as the blood trickled over the candle, soaking the flame as it faded out. The ritual was over, but apart from a light chill, nothing seemed to happen. With disappointment washing over us both, mixed with a slight relief, we conceded that, as predicted, it wasn't real. Having waited up all night for an anticlimax, we both decided to get our heads down. It wasn't long after I lay down when it happened. I woke to a sound I can't describe to you unless you hear it. Looking up to see what it was, I froze. The sound that is today embodied in my brain was coming from my friend as he sat upright on the sofa, as if he was choking on his own words. His eyes rolled into the back of his skull. I panicked, rushing over to him, not knowing what to do. As I grabbed him, I yanked my hands back, His skin was boiling. The sweat dripped from his forehead as he convulsed. My heart pounding, the only thing I could think was that he was having a seizure. But was that possible sitting upright? Frantically grabbing my phone, I went to call an ambulance when suddenly everything stopped. My friend Static stopped in his tracks, staring right at me, as the same haunting voice we had heard on the audio erupted from his mouth in whispers that I didn't understand, until it broke into English as it said, "Your mind cannot comprehend what lies beyond. Remember 2032, when your world sees all." As these words left his mouth, his body fell to the floor. Not understanding what I just witnessed, I rushed to his side. But within seconds he shot up screaming as he held himself, looking around the room, crying as he threw up. I tried to ask him if he was okay and what the hell had just happened. Was that some kind of night terror? But he couldn't even talk to me. He just looked at me with fear in his eyes, a look that I'd never seen from him before. And I knew deep down it was something to do with that ritual we did. Asking him what he saw, he never spoke a word. He never told me. I ended up calling the paramedics to check him over. I couldn't bring myself to tell them what we were really doing that night when they asked me. I just told them that he had taken something, and they found nothing wrong with him. After that night, he was never the same. I stayed with him the first few days, but he never left his room. A week after that night, I arrived at his apartment to find him dead, hanging from the ceiling. He had taken his own life. Every time I close my eyes, I see that image of him. I know he saw something that night of the ritual. Something possessed him, showed him things our human minds are not meant to see, something that he could never tell me, something he couldn't live with knowing, and something that eats away at me every day. I don't know what he saw that night or what possessed him, but if that were my blood we used, it would have been me. But what really haunts me is seeing the fear in his eyes and the words he echoed. Every day I wake thinking 2032, your world sees all. A date I dread to see the answers to, and a date that will always haunt me until it arrives. So, for those of you who have been contemplating or toying with the idea of exploring the dark web, take this as a warning. Please don't do it. It's not worth the risk, and certainly not worth the consequences.
If you're here listening to this experience of mine, I'm sure that you are already familiar with what the deep web is. But if you're not, parts of that will be covered later. But to begin, this encounter I had with the deep web is something that still makes me feel sick today, and after hearing this, I won't blame people for hating me. I've always been a frequent user of online resources, having studied computer science at college. A frequent in chat rooms talking to random strangers has always been a hobby of mine. Having explored the wrong types of chat rooms and talking to the wrong type of people, you learn things, and discover things about the internet that you wouldn't believe were real. This is where I had learned about the deep web, and became fascinated with it. I spent most of my nights on the web. I'm pretty much a night owl and don't sleep the best. I had a job with mainly evening work, but the occasional shift pattern, and this is where my story fits in. I worked full-time at a restaurant. Most of my shifts would consist of evenings. It was a job that I needed at the time to pay the bills, but in all honesty, I didn't enjoy going. This wasn't because of the job itself, more so because of a colleague that I worked with, my supervisor. He was a complete asshole, and pretty much had it in for me. always picking on me and degrading me in front of others. To him, I couldn't do anything right. One shift, I turned up 5 minutes late because of an unexpected accident causing traffic, and he deducted me a half-hour pay for 5 minutes. I'd be doing the job, and if I ever asked a colleague for help, he would ridicule me, calling me useless, even if I was busy and needed a hand with tables. He would often pick me to do the worst tasks, from scrubbing the toilets and cleaning up shit. Not often, ever picking anyone else. Just me. So, after months of putting up with this, one night I'd had enough. I'd been working there for some time and wanted to progress for more money and for opportunities in the future. A team leader role had become available, and I was determined to go for the role, so I spoke to my other team leader, who, if I got the job, I'd be working alongside, and I scheduled in my interview. I already knew the role, and made sure that I had prepped for the interview to give myself the best chance of getting it. So, when I had my interview, I was surprised to see our supervisor sitting in on my interview with my team leader. He had apparently sat in on the others, so I didn't let it faze me and gave it my all. Coming out of the interview, I was pretty happy with how it went and how I portrayed myself. A week later, I was given the news that I didn't get the job. I was deflated by that, but I found out who had gotten the job. A girl who had been working there for 5 minutes and literally applied for the job last minute with no motivation to go for it, just the fact that it was available. It was more so who got the job that bothered me than me not getting it, as I had worked myself into the ground for that place. So I asked my team leader how the decision was made. They informed me that the final decision lay with the supervisor and he chose her. I was so angry with this, and I knew that he had it in for me. I decided that I'd had enough and decided to ask the supervisor, in a respectable way, why the decision was made, and if there was an issue with me. It was there that I'd had enough of being treated like shit. He said to me that he didn't need to give me any feedback, and that I'm lucky I hadn't been fired for just being me and to get out of his face. The way he spoke to me enraged me, and upon leaving that night, I had so much anger in me that I had not felt before. That night, I was online looking for people to talk to rant and vent my frustrations. I began speaking to a person I had spoken to many times before in a dodgy chat room that I frequented on the deep web. We had discussed lots of things, including the contents of the deep web that we had both explored before. I was telling him how angry I was and how I hated my supervisor, and how I wished I could get revenge on him. And that's when the person replied, "What kind of revenge?" I was taken by surprise by the question, but thinking about it, I replied, "Something to teach him a lesson, and have him feel the pain he puts people through." The person replied, "Well, you can." I was curious to what he meant, and then a second message popped up. "You know where to look." And following that, a link was sent to me through the chat. I hovered over it with the cursor, thinking for a second what this link would contain. Another message from the person had popped up saying, "You can find what you need here for a price. I myself have used these services." Having had a fair few drinks and still angry, I didn't hesitate for too long and I clicked the link. My screen faded to black as a page full of links appeared. It seemed to be a subcategory of different services, all providing similar things. Stalkers, hitmen, kidnapping services. Now, I was angry, but I didn't want the guy killed or, as much as I would like it to happen, go missing. So I began to sweat, seeing some of these services. Then one caught my eye. It was very vague, but its description stated all that I was looking for. Looking for revenge. Looking to have someone dealt with, and to pay what they have done but live to tell the story. It stated, "Let us help. Let us bring the rain." The link seemed to be called Rain on them. I dug a little deeper and couldn't really see what the service entailed. There was just a submission page where it asked for the person's details you wanted to submit, and a payment service where it cost money or Bitcoin. You could pay either way for the services. Being drunk at the time, emotions took over me and I entered my supervisor's details. Name, age, location. I hovered over the submission button for a second before clicking, and then willingly paid the fee. The details disappeared, and then a message popped up saying, "Thank you for your submission and for acquiring our services. We will be in touch with your own personal video soon." Before fading, I sat there for a few minutes contemplating what I had just done, as I didn't fully know what I had just signed off for. I went back to speak with the guy from the chat to ask him about the services, but he was gone. Calling it a night, I decided to sleep off my drunken emotional state, feeling instant regret for what I had just done and paid. A few days later, and nothing had happened. I went to work as usual, and my supervisor was still there, seemingly okay, albeit he had left me alone and didn't bother me on those days. In fact, it seemed after our last talk, he was avoiding me, which was fine by me. I began to worry about what I had paid for, what was going to happen, even to the point that I was hoping that I had just been scammed out of money and nothing was even going to happen. And that's when a week after that night I had submitted the details online, I had arrived at work. As soon as I walked in, I could see that the atmosphere was different. Everyone looked shook up. I asked my coworker what was up, and what they told me made me feel physically sick. They asked if I had heard what happened to Frank, my supervisor. Not the real name for confidentiality reasons. I obviously hadn't, and I then noticed he was nowhere to be seen. My coworker then told me that he was brutally attacked the night before, across the street, as he was leaving work. Attacked to the point that he was unrecognizable and was lying in a hospital with severe burns. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I suddenly felt a shower of guilt build up inside of me, thinking, could it actually have been me that caused this? I faked being sick that evening and rushed home, logging into my desktop, and as soon as I did, a message appeared on my computer containing a link. I clicked it, and it read, "Here is your personal video. We hope you enjoy how we have dealt with Frank. He will never be the same again." Accompanying the message was a video stream. My heart was racing as I processed what I had just read. My fingers trembled as I clicked it. It started dark with clearly someone hiding as my supervisor came into view leaving a bar. They followed him. It cut to another night when he was arriving home and entered his house. These people were stalking him for days. It then cut to him leaving work alone at night as he crossed the road. Then coming into view were three figures wearing white, faceless masks with hoods on. They quickly all approached Frank as he headed for his car, the cameraman following behind. Of course, blindsided and surprised, Frank began to shout as the figures wrestled him to the ground, covering his mouth. Placing him on his knees and holding his arms, the person holding the camera stood in front of him as the men beat down on him. Holding him up, you could see the fear in his eyes. Then, without any warning, the person holding the camera threw something into Frank's face. And the screams were haunting. They filmed as he rolled around on the floor screaming in agony, not before prying his hands away, and a sight that will haunt me forever, filming the skin burning and melting on his face as he shrieked in excruciating pain. The video cut off. I threw up, feeling so guilty for what I had just seen, realizing I was the cause of this attack. I had paid for an acid attack. No matter how badly he treated me at work, I would never wish that upon anybody. I, to this day, have not forgiven myself for what I stupidly did. It's a secret that eats away at me, and I don't blame anyone for hating me. I acted of raw emotion, which you should never do. Anyone in my position, do not go looking for these things on the deep web. The consequences are not worth it. I ruined someone's life, and now I have to live with my fucked up actions.
I have a story that's about the dark web or something adjacent to it. I'm not really sure, but it was definitely one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me. This was in 2013 or 2014, my sophomore year, because none of us could drive yet. I'm a girl and most of my friends were girls at the time. We liked to wander around downtown until our parents just made us go home. We all kind of lived close, so it wasn't a big deal to meet up at the corner and then just harass all the nice people out for an evening stroll. The art district downtown was our playground in high school. We'd spend hours exploring the vibrant streets, admiring murals and sipping coffee at electric cafes. There wasn't a lot to do where we lived, so it was either roaming the city or getting kicked out of the mall. We all preferred to be outside, so we stuck to the sidewalks. One evening, as we strolled by a dimly lit alley, we stumbled upon a group of kids that were huddled up around something on the wall. With our curiosity piqued, we decided to return later and investigate for ourselves. It was really weird, whatever they were doing, because as we walked by the alley entrance, they all stood upright, acted all nonchalant like we couldn't see them. As we continued onward though, they went right back to the wall and kept fidgeting with whatever was back there. Again, with there being hyper-limited activities for kids downtown, we were beyond invested in whatever those people were up to. We posted up at a streetlight down the road, just a bit, and waited for them to come back out. After like an hour, they finally did. The hell could have kept their interest for so long? We waited for them to walk out of sight before we ventured back the way they came. As we made our way back to the alley, the sun was dipping below the rooftops, casting long shadows. The air grew thick with this eerie silence, like the brick and mortar cut off the rest of the world from us. We knew the sun was going down, but it was dark back there, darker than I was expecting it to be. It's kind of hard to make out any of the finer details. We approached the spot, our hearts beating in unison. "What do you think they were doing back here?" my friend Emily whispered, her eyes scanning to the walls. I shook my head, my gaze fixed on the spot where the kids had been. That's when I saw a USB port, sealed between the bricks, gleaming in the fading light. It was totally sealed in the brick, just a port for someone to come up and hook up to. "Guys, look at this," I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. They all gathered around me, their faces reflecting in my own mix of fascination and trepidation. The port seemed out of place, like a secret hidden in plain sight kind of thing. The hell could it be for? One of the strangest things I'd ever seen. Who put it there and why? Why make it accessible? "This is freaky," Emily said, her voice trembling. I laughed and pushed her shoulder, trying to make light of it. "Oh, come on, Em. Those kids were messing with it. It's probably anime or some kind of nerdy stuff." Everyone then shared a collective laugh. It's true, we did see other kids playing with it, so it's not like some greasy guy in a trench coat was loitering back here, trying to get us to hook up to it. Still, I was super curious, so I had to ask. "Should we see what's on it?" "I don't know," Emily said. "Come on, it's probably nothing," I shot back. My friends exchanged nervous glances, but I was resolute. I rummaged through my backpack, producing a couple of adapter cables. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" my friend Sarah asked, her eyes widening with concern. She was already known for being a buzzkill, so I didn't really pay her any attention. I smiled, my heart pounding with excitement. Come on, it'll be fun, guys. With a deep breath, I plugged the USB into my iPhone. The device buzzed to life, downloading gigabytes of data. I couldn't wait to see what kind of weird stuff we might discover, or maybe some secret diary. Who knows? Looking back, I feel like a total dumbass for just hooking up my personal device to some random port in the middle of the city. Either way, my phone restarted, and we waited in silence, our eyes fixed on the screen. What would it show? Whose secrets would start playing across my screen now? We all started talking and laughing, feeling the fun bleed back into the group. It started as a worry, but now that the phone hadn't blown up, we went back to giggling. The phone booted up again. We all exhaled collectively. Nothing seemed to happen though. We laughed, relieved, and began to walk away. I tried to access the gig of whatever I just downloaded, but I couldn't. We were on the move now. I told myself I'd look at it later and delete it if necessary. We carried on the rest of the evening without incident, till it was curfew and I had to go home. I made the solo march back to my place, tinkering with my phone, and found that literally nothing was different. Whatever had been downloaded has apparently erased itself because there was nothing in my history nor my downloads. Satisfied, I went to bed thinking nothing more about it. As the days passed though, my phone's erratic behavior was escalating. Apps opened and closed on their own. Messages sent to my friends made no sense. My financial apps were useless. I couldn't even check my email. I felt like I was losing control, but my embarrassment kept me silent. Out of everything, my banking apps were the weirdest. I mean, I was a kid back then, but I still had access to an ATM card and stuff like that. Was worried that whatever had gotten into my phone might be able to get into more delicate areas of my life, and from there, God knows what. Still, being a dumb kid, I took zero precaution, just forgot about it like I did everything else. We had a good laugh about the random texts my phone would send, as they were either wordy or total gibberish and would fire off at any hour of the day. Super weird and funny for whatever reason. Then, my laptop joined in on the chaos. It froze one day, then rebooted. The login screen taunted me with the same menacing message. All your secrets belong to us. I felt like I was being watched, like someone was waiting for me to make another mistake. I stared at the screen in silent horror and wondered what they were talking about. Secrets? Belong to who? What secrets? My stomach flip-flopped at the notion. Again, young and stupid, I just closed the screen to the computer and imagined it would all go away. It would be back to normal again in the morning, if not maybe after school. It'd just have to fix itself. But I wasn't the only one experiencing strange issues. My dad mentioned his phone was acting up. My mom was struggling with the internet. As the week went by, I was hearing more and more about the weirdness in our home. Internet going in and out, smart things acting up, apps doing whatever they want on the phones. It was like the Wild West for technology in our home, and it happened all at once. Only I knew where the problem had come from. I knew then I'd brought something sinister into our home, something I couldn't handle all by myself, but what options did I really have? Telling meant telling on myself. One night as I lay in bed, our security system blasted to life, and I can't express how terrifying it was to be woken up by something so overwhelming. Alarm systems like that are so loud they rattle your teeth. They thump inside your chest and displace every piece of hair on your head. It's a very uncomfortable feeling, even when you're awake, so for that to go off in the middle of the night had me on borderline hysterics. The alarm sent us scrambling into the living room, our hearts all racing. My dad quickly checked the doors, but there was nobody there. Tried to disable the alarm, but it wouldn't budge. I could see his face getting frustrated in the red glow of the screen. Punching his code in over and over, nothing happening. It was like a nightmare, but it wasn't going away. Then the unthinkable happened. The alarm ceased, and a voice spoke through the intercom, its tone very chilling.
Hello? Can you hear us?
What? Who is this? My dad screamed into the intercom.
Hi. We just wanted to say that all your secrets belong to us now.
My eyes peeled open and I went numb, literally collapsed against the wall and slumped to the floor. My mom came over to console me, screaming for my dad to call 911. He killed the power to the security system somehow and the speakers went silent. It was then I broke down, confessed everything to my parents. They were shocked, but quickly sprang into crisis mode, taking down notes on everything that I could tell them. They were furious, naturally, but we were already in the thick of it. There's nothing else to do. We all slept in the same room that night, just to be sure nothing else crazy was going on. The next morning, they contacted the police and all kinds of different damage control experts, namely their personal taxes and financial people, even a cybersecurity guy. They made a report and then got the lowdown on everything that could go wrong and how bad it actually was. Ultimately, we had to replace all our devices and some smart tech around the house. From there, we needed all new logins, emails, and super strong passwords. Everything was on VPNs and encrypted in our house, way before there were ads about it online. It's a huge pain in the butt, very long, strenuous, and expensive, but came as the recommendation. The USB port was extracted from the wall, but it yielded nothing. The investigators said it was nothing but a dead drop with some angsty essays written by teenagers and young adults. Even some crappy poetry, a couple of random codes for random things. No malware, no virus, no nothing like that. It was as if it jumped onto my phone and wormed its way through our stuff, and it only existed there. It was all very creepy to think about. We had to replace every device, change every password, and endure a long, grueling process to secure our digital lives. It was a nightmare, one that I foolishly invited right into our home. As we struggled to rebuild our digital security, I realized how lucky we were. Our finances were intact, our private lives remained private, and we avoided the shame of being hacked. There are some true horror stories of people losing everything to scammers and hackers, so to come out unscathed was really a blessing. I learned a hard lesson. Never mess with things you don't understand. Never underestimate the power of the unknown. It was almost like taunting a raging bull, and I was powerless to get out of its way. The internet is much the same. You don't ever want to turn its eye on you. From that day on, I treated electronics with respect, never taking their security for granted. The memory of that USB port and its sinister message remained etched into my mind, a constant reminder of the dangers lurking in the shadows of the digital world. Dangers we can't even perceive. You wouldn't want all your secrets belonging to them as well, would you?
I'm sure most of you here have heard of the deep web, the dark underbelly of the internet, and are intrigued by what can be out there, or the stories you hear. Being a frequent on the deep web for my own curiosity, I can tell you a lot of the stuff you hear about the deep web are exaggerated, but that isn't to say that there isn't strange and disturbing stuff out there, and I still don't recommend exploring its content if you're not savvy with the net itself. I myself have explored the deep web for research purposes, and I had even taken to ordering stuff from there, but that was a mistake that I will not make again, as one such order I placed, even for me, someone who is not easily scared, left me freaked out and looking at the world differently. When it comes to ordering things off the deep web, you can order the things you have probably heard about, for instance, drugs, exotic animals, illegal firearms, and so on. But something you may not have heard of, and if you search the right places, you can order mystery boxes. Mystery boxes are as they sound, and put simply, anonymous and untraceable boxes you can order online with cryptocurrency, ranging from hundreds to thousands of dollars. I wanted to try this out. I wanted to order myself a mystery box and see for myself firsthand what I would unearth from an anonymous source. So one night I took to ordering myself my first box. I was at first a bit nervous with having it delivered to my own address, instantly regretting that decision and wishing I had ordered it to a Dropbox. But it was already done, and now all I could do is wait. Within a week, I was home one afternoon when my doorbell rang, and there was a knock on the door. When I reached the door looking out, I couldn't see anyone, and as I opened the door, I looked down, and at my feet was a box. A rush of excitement came over me as I knew what it was. I picked it up and headed back inside, eager to see what was inside. Firstly, I examined the box. It looked like a standard parcel. Wanting to waste no more time, I began opening it. As I pulled back the cardboard, what was inside was pure garbage. Literally, a pack of playing cards, a latex mask with a ball and gag and a pair of handcuffs, along with a small clear bottle that contained some sort of cheap perfume. To say I was disappointed was an understatement. I had paid and received what was basically a cheap sex box, which I threw straight in the trash. You may think that would have been my first and last mystery box order, but this only made me want to look again and place another order. Stupid for not learning my lesson the first time, I decided I would again explore what I could find and order another this time at a higher price, and hoping to find something more, I don't know, thrilling, I suppose? So that evening I sat there searching for hours as I placed my second order for a mystery box. The next few days I was thinking about how disappointed I was regarding the first one, and had it in my head if the second one was again a dud, then that was me done ordering these boxes, and could safely say they were a load of shit. Then, one late afternoon, the day came where this new mystery box was delivered. I was upstairs on my computer when I heard the doorbell ring. I made my way downstairs to answer. As I looked out, all I could see and hear was the heavy rain pouring. Opening the door, just like the last, there was a box on the floor of my porch. Only this time, this one looked instantly different. As I picked it up, it was a larger box with more weight behind it, and was covered in straps of black tape. I shut the door, bringing in the box, setting it down on my table. Examining this box, it was dirty, the tape sealing it shut, making it difficult to get into. I grabbed a knife to cut away at the tape, eagerly trying to get into it. When I finally managed to get most of the tape cut, I pulled the knife across the center of the box, opening it up. As I pulled back the cardboard, I was instantly hit with a putrid, sour odor, instantly making me pull my head back as it smelled awful, like the smell of gone-off, stale cheesed milk. Holding a towel over my mouth and nose, I looked inside the box, and the contents was wrapped up in something with a note attached to the top that read, "Wear gloves." Instantly, this freaked me out. The smell, the note telling me to wear gloves. I thought, what the hell could be in there? I did what the note said, though, and applied gloves. Moving the note, I slowly pulled out the sheet containing the contents of the box. As I pulled it out, I placed it on the table and could now see it was a dirty baby blanket. Peeling back the corners, opening the blanket, I saw what was inside. There were 3 items inside. First, I saw what the awful smell was coming from. There was a baby's bottle which was full of disgusting, yellowy brown liquid that made me gag and my eyes water. The smell was awful. I carefully picked it up and moved it over to my sink. As I returned to the box, the second item was a big doll. Not a normal doll, but those Russian nesting dolls that contain a doll within a doll. As I picked it up, I noticed the outside doll was cracked, and there was something rattling on the inside. I didn't know if it was a broken doll inside or not, but began opening it to find out. As I opened the outer doll, another fell out, and as I opened the next, the dolls became smaller, until I was at the last doll. Sweating to know what, I prized it open, and as I poured out its content, realizing what it was, a ball of fear built in my stomach. What I'd poured across my table was a collection of human teeth. My heart raced. Feeling physically sick, I didn't know what to do. I stopped for a second, contemplating what I'd just pulled out of the box. Knowing there was one more item, I had to see what else was in there. At this point, I was freaked out, I won't lie, and as I looked at the last thing in the box, it was again covered in a tattered white cloth with string tied around it. It looked like a book wrapped up. Cutting off the string, I unwrapped the cloth and could see it was no book, but an old VHS tape. Again, a note attached to it that said, "Don't play me." Don't play me? Why would the anonymous sender write that, knowing full well someone would now be more inclined to play it? And just like they probably wanted, I had to know what was on the tape. I had an old video player stored away in my attic, and after finding it, now had a way to watch the tape. I placed the tape in and pressed play. Static blared from my TV as the screen went black with white lines across it before coming into focus. It looked like a dark room, but on closer look, it was more like a dark cave. Someone was walking with a camera, and in the center of the room, there was a woman chained up, visibly distressed and crying. In the distance, you could hear the sound of a baby crying. The man behind the camera began speaking in a language I didn't understand, but sounded like a deep Eastern European accent. He beckoned another person to bring someone in the room. The picture quality grainy, I could see something moving in the distance, and the sound of chains scraping. As the figure came into view, the woman tied up began screaming what sounded like "no" in complete terror, and then I could see why. What I saw on that video was fucked up. A tall, dirty, scrawny, naked woman-like person entered next to her shackled. Towering over her, looking nearly 7 feet tall. Looking at it scared the shit out of me. Its naked body, long matted dark hair, and cleft lip, disgusting, as the man took a shackle off. Whatever it was began to sniff at the woman and make a strange wailing sound as the woman trembled. Again, the sounds of a crying baby echoed. This seemed to instantly set the woman off as it brutally pounded at the woman, tied up as she screamed from the bony, balled-up fists, crashing into her face. This lasted for a good minute, until the screams had stopped and all that was left of the woman's head was a crushed, bloody pile of unrecognizable, lifeless mess. The cameraman clapped as the other man walked that feral woman back into the darkness. The sound of a baby's cry in the distance before the video cut off to static. I felt physically sick. I didn't know what I had just watched or if it was even real, but it looked so real, not like a movie when you know it's... This just didn't seem fake. I sat there in silence for a while when it ended, not quite knowing what to do with myself. The mystery box was the last one I ever ordered and ever will. I don't know where it's from, and I don't want to know. Whatever that fucked up woman was on the video, I don't want to know if it's real or not. Something in my gut is telling me it was real, and that's why I think there are some messed up things out there that we don't know about, and I don't want to know about. All the contents of that box were destroyed. I could have taken it to the police, but didn't, as for my history with them, and know for a fact nothing would come from doing so. I still explore the deep web, but I will never order anything off there again.
What I'm about to share with you happened back in 2019. I live in Tamaulipas, Mexico. Where I'm from, let's just say it's not the safest area, where crime is high and poverty is well known, with many just trying to make a living. I had been working myself into the ground and had taken some time out to rest and recover. Whilst I did this, I decided to take a visit to my late father. He had been gone for a few years now, but when me and my brothers were ever in need, we would visit his grave and talk with him. We always felt that he could hear us, and we felt better after doing this. Like he was watching over us, as they say. So one night I took a trip to his resting place to pay him a visit and get some spiritual advice. As I arrived at the graveyard, I made my way to his resting place. When I neared, I could see something wasn't right. Locking my eyes on his grave, I tried to work out what it was, and the closer I got, the more apparent it became. And I felt my heart raced in a state of shock and panic. As I reached it, standing over his grave, tears rolled down my face. The grave was open. The more I inspected to work out what the hell had happened, the more I discovered. Now I knew my father hadn't risen from the grave as much as I wished that was possible in life. But I could clearly see the grave had been dug up, and the more I looked, the soul-crushing sight hit me. His corpse had been disturbed and his skull removed. I felt physically sick. I couldn't believe it, and I didn't know what to do as I absorbed what lay in front of me. The reality of my father's grave being dug up. It was then I heard the sound of talking and what seemed to be a shovel in the distance. In despair at the time and wanting to know what the hell had happened to my father's grave and to see if someone could help me, I followed the sound of voices. Homing in on the voices, it was in the near distance I could see a light flashing. Slowing as I watched, I could see the sight of two men digging into a grave as if they were digging the grave up. I couldn't believe it as I watched. Had I stumbled across the people who had dug up my father's grave? I thought they were armed with tools in a duffel bag, and I knew this was wrong. These people were committing a terrible crime, and I had to make my presence known. Impulsively, I screamed over, asking them what was going on and what they were doing. The speed at which they turned to face me. They were clearly startled that someone was around. But I hadn't thought my actions all the way through. My presence didn't scare them off, but instead nearly cost me my life. The man with the torch quickly pulled a gun out of his pocket as he made a beeline for me. Aiming the gun towards me, the fear and panic that hit me was enough to cause me to break out into a sprint back the way I came. As I heard the shouts behind me and the haunting sound of gunshots that were meant for me, my heart raced as I screamed, knowing at any moment a bullet could hit me. Not stopping, I managed to reach the entrance of the graveyard and the sight of my car on the street, all the while hearing the raised voices behind me. Throwing myself into my car, I couldn't start it fast enough, as the sound of more gunshots echoed towards me, one hitting my back windscreen as it smashed. I screamed as I pressed down on the accelerator, speeding out of there. Looking in my rearview mirror at the sight of the man, aiming his gun as he slowly drifted further away as I left him in the distance. Arriving home in hysterics, I told my brothers what had happened and what I had discovered and the news of our father's grave. They were filled with outrage and anger, but were also angry with me for approaching the men. My brothers went to the graveyard that night to see, but whoever was there was already gone. That night 5 graves were dug up in total, and all the skulls taken from the graves. Now, having reported this to the police, it got nowhere. They didn't want to know. It was up to us to get answers, and having done our own research and spoken to many people, we were led to a friend who knew what this was. He got up news feeds and articles online of what is known as grave robbing, and the selling of human remains on the black market. As this macabre news was brought to our attention, I couldn't believe that this was a real thing. Through illegal marketplaces and the dark web, literally anything can be sold. The news that we read described how criminals were stealing skulls and other human remains from graves to supply a largely unregulated online market for human remains sold to people all over the world, for the likes of experiments, science, and sickeningly, ornaments and decorations for whatever twisted people bought this stuff. The more we researched, the more it sickened me, as I read that people could also specify what they wanted, and it would be taken for them, ranging from higher prices if they wanted male remains, female remains, or even children's remains. What I'm telling you is not even a joke, and you can research it yourself. This was a crime sweeping through my country, but it didn't just happen here. This was happening all over the world in many countries. The fact that it was easy here, as authorities didn't really bat an eyelid to this crime, is why it must be so common here. and the fact that it could be sold to buyers over the border with relative ease. It is not known to the public here, as it's probably being covered up by the corrupt, but there are people online bringing this crime to light and highlighting that modern-day grave robbing is taking place, with one article stating that 21 human skulls had been stolen from a local cemetery months prior to what happened to me. This may not be the scary story some of you were expecting, but I have to get it out there that these crimes happen. It hurts me to know that my father's remains are likely out there in someone's possession now, and I will never find out. It just shows you, this is one disturbing world we live in, and the web really can be a dark place. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on this terrifying trip down the rabbit hole. We hope you enjoyed this chilling dark web compilation as much as we enjoyed making it. We just want to give a massive shout out and thanks to the talented group who helped make this video even better with their amazing voices. As the Raven Dreams, Booze and Booze, and Danie Dreadful, thank you all for joining in on this one with some chilling stories. Go check out their channels and give them a subscribe. You won't be disappointed. Their links are all in the description, and if you like this subject and want to hear more, check out our dark web playlist. As always, thanks for listening, and if you haven't already, like, share and subscribe, and join the Horror Motives community. Until next time, fear lies within.